why didn't you sign this questionnaire?
Because I wanted to come before the board. Because the questionnaire that they brought to me, it didn't seem like the right thing to do. I wanted to come before the board. Because that was
Okay, great, great. Okay, now, you're here today because you've been accused of violating the conditions of your parole supervision contract and your sexual offender contract. And I'm going to read the charge. You have options to plead guilty, not guilty, guilty with a statement, and not guilty with a statement. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Before we go any further, Ms. Teresa, would you please introduce the guests at the hearing, please?
That's Miss
Yes,
Julie
sir.
Dukes.
We have Julie Dukes, who's a girlfriend who's here in support, who would like to speak.
Thank you. And she will be given a chance at the appropriate time. Okay, I'm going to read the charges, and you have the 4 options I gave you before. The charge is you have violated the conditions of condition number 8 in that you failed to submit to sex offender counseling as directed by your parole officer. How do you plead?
I'm guilty.
Not guilty with a statement?
Yes, sir. Because of
Sir,
the
sir,
I have paperwork.
sir, 1 second. Now, give us a statement.
I have some paperwork here that will show that where he was trying to force me under this sex offender program, that it will show that it doesn't apply to me.
Sir, I have your sex offender contract with me,
Uh-huh.
and you did not sign that contract, but you initial every provision of that contract, and your initials imply that you read the provision and you understood it. Also, when you were released, you were given a parole certificate. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
In order to be released, you signed that parole contract, did you not?
Yes, sir.
And when you made your initial visit to the parole officers, your parole officer went over that parole contract again, explaining each and every provision. Am I correct?
No, sir.
Okay, you said no. Were you given a sex offender contract during your first visit to the parole officer?
No, sir.
Okay, so how did your initials get on that contract?
I didn't sign anything and I didn't initiate anything, sir.
Okay, so make your statement, please.
Like again, I have paperwork here that will show you that the sex offender program does not apply to me. If just given a few moments, it'll have this fax to you so you can go over it. It will show you and it will explain everything to you according to this.
Okay, sir, what was your offense? What offense were you on at the time you were on supervision?
It's multiple.
Sir?
It's multiple.
Okay, what were the offenses?
You had one was an attempt aggravated rape charge. You had one with an aggravated burglary charge. You had one with a possession of marijuana charge, and you had another one with a possession of marijuana charge.
So basically, you were in attempted aggravated rape. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And that is a sex offense. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
How old was the victim at the time you committed this offense?
I don't know.
Was she under the age of 18?
I don't know, sir.
Okay, so basically, when you were released from prison, you became a sex offender and you had to register as a sex offender. Am I correct?
Not according to the law, sir.
Okay. Make your statement.
No, you have to read this paperwork, sir. If it can be faxed to you in any kind of way, shape, or fashion, you will understand it, and then I can explain it to you step for step while you're looking at it.
Okay, explain to us why you're not considered as a sex offender and you're not considered to be on supervision.
Because when I was sentenced back in 1990, there was no sex offender laws existed at all, none, in 1990. Mr. John Walsh went to Congress when his daughter got kidnapped and raped. He went to Congress with this bill, and Congress passed this bill in 1997. That's when the first law ever existed in Louisiana.
Okay, I see where your argument's going. Okay, now, when were you released on supervision?
Back in 2005, and I didn't have to register, none of that stuff.
Okay, so this time, when were you released on supervision?
I got caught with distribution of marijuana charge back in 2009. I went back to prison. And when I came out in 2014, the parole board forced me to have to register when I didn't have to.
Okay, now, when was your last release from prison? Was it 214?
No, sir. I went back to prison again on a obstruction of justice charge, and I did 9 months, and I just come back in August.
Okay, and basically, you were released when?
What do you mean, sir?
When was the last time you were released on parole supervision?
August.
August of 2020.
No, that's full term date.
Okay.
I got released in August of 20.
Okay, but what I'm saying is you were released in August of 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now, and you signed a parole supervision contract, did you not?
To be released from prison, yes, sir. I was forced to sign
Okay,
that.
sir, that parole contract, condition number 8, say that you are to comply with every request of your parole officer.
And also, sir, the law
For as medical and any other treatment that he deems necessary. Am I correct?
No, sir.
Sir, condition number 8 says that you are to follow all directions of your parole officer, and he directed you to take sex offender treatment and you refused.
And the law says I do not have to.
But that contract you signed say that you are to follow each and every request.
It's an illegal contract.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Wise, do you have any questions?
Sir, what is it you have in your hand? What can you tell us about what you have in your hand that's going to change what the Department of Correction has given us about your charge? Tell me what it is.
It's the law. The law was brought out.
It's a law as to what? RS what?
RS 15540.
15540. Any particular section?
It's registration.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Okay. Okay.
And that law came out again in 1997. The first law ever to hit Louisiana.
Okay.
Wasn't any other laws when I was sentenced in 1990, and it got retroactive back to 1992, no further. It said any offender, sex offender that was since on or after January 1st, 1992. It doesn't say 1990, it said 1992 forward.
Okay, okay, all righty. So, so what you have is a statute, which is something we can all look up. That's what you want to show us.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I just wanted to be clear on what that was. But now I do take objection to you saying that you were forced to sign something to be released. But however, you have to know that if you sign something, you are expected to uphold your end of the contract that you signed.
Yes, ma'am.
And you signed it sometime in July. You told Mr. Roche you didn't sign it, but your name is on the sex offender contract. You signed it.
I understand where you're at now.
Okay. And at that point, while you were out, while you were free, you should have been going to legal aid or somewhere to get your vantage point on the law change. But because you did, the Department of Corrections, the Department of Corrections is fully enabled to abide, make sure, and have consequences for if you don't abide by the contract that you were presented, that you signed. It was behooving on you to get that change while you were out, and you didn't. You should have did it while you were free.
Well, I didn't have no,
but you didn't. But you didn't. I just need you to have an appreciation for the fact that we are going to abide by what DOC is saying. It's the law as it applies to your case. And it would behoove you to wake up and realize until you get it changed.
Right.
That's what's in place. That contract is in place. And that's all I had, sir.
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Gamble.
Yes, sir.
Victor Jones. Did you understand what Ms. Wise just explained to you?
Yes, sir, I did.
You sound like you're an intelligent man. Just wanted to make sure you understood what she said.
Yes,
okay, I have no other questions.
Thank you. At this time, would Ms. Julie Dukes unmute your mic? Ms. Dukes, would you unmute your mic?
Yes, sir.
Would you please give us your statement?
Yes, sir. My statement is that when Mr. Gamble had gotten out, he was having problems with his sugar and his diabetes, and it was during COVID. Now, during the time of COVID, there really wasn't no mention of him going to this here class. Now, he completed over 5 years of this here class that they're talking about with John Hewitt. And the class was only supposed to last for 17 months, Your Honor. But then he had went back in and then he got back out. But during this COVID time, I didn't think, nor did he, that there was any classes. There was no mention of classes, Your Honor, until right before the time of him to get taken. I had went in and I had surgery. And I had took the COVID test and we was quarantining and I was going back and forth to the doctor. That's whenever probation and parole, not Paul Cryer, but Weatherford had mentioned the class. He had never mentioned there being any classes open during COVID, Your Honor, until that such time right before my surgery on the 6th of November. And it was right before then that he had mentioned it. So then I had went and I had surgery. And then 1 week after my surgery, I was in front of probation and parole with Mr. Gamble. And I rode up there with him. He got out and went in, he come back out and they had arrested him for not going to the classes. After we had found out that it was the classes indeed that he wasn't going to, that was the problem. And we'd only known about it for a very short time. Well, myself, that they was having COVID classes. Because I can only speak of myself and my knowledge. That was whenever I knew. I had called them and they was talking about him doing classes over the phone. I have a phone, he doesn't have a phone. But Mr. Gamble does not know how to download anything. He's been in prison for like 23 years on and off throughout the years. So he has no idea about how the internet works, nothing else. You had to teach him how to use a remote control or for a TV or for a VCR or anything, or DVD player or something. He doesn't know how to download anything on the phone. And then he doesn't know anything about a user pass or a user code. And that's how they were doing the classes. And we didn't find out till late, Your Honor, that they was even doing classes during COVID, because we was trying to get the main thing going back and forth to the doctor to get his sugar straight and in line so he could go to work, and me with the surgery that I had. Now I ask and I plead with the court forgiveness in our knowledge of the class and that it was going on, and that he be able to, even though he has paperwork and the guidelines show that their act was retrograded only back up to 1992, and his charge was from 1990. That if he does have to take these classes as a provision of his probation and parole, I ask that we just go ahead and do that from there, and then he'll try and get go to court, in which that's what he's going to do, is try to go to court and get all that taken care of to where the judge signs that the law is from 1990 doesn't apply to him as far as 1990, because it really wasn't part of his whenever he got out in 2005, and it shouldn't be part of his now, because it was only supposed to retroactive back to 1992, not to what it is today. He's done paid 30 years, Your Honor, for something that the girl was not raped. I read the whole transcript.
Ma'am, we're not retrying the trial. We allowing you to make a statement to tell us why he should not be revoked.
Well, I asked that he not be revoked, Your Honor, due to the fact of COVID going on and us really not having the knowledge that they were doing the classes until just before he did get arrested and put back.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Gamble, would you like to make a brief closing statement?
Yes, sir. I have a writ of habeas corpus into the court that's due scheduled on the 6th here in Vernon Parish to get this straightened out. And I just need the opportunity to get back out there on the streets where I can get into court, in person, and get all this stuff straightened out to where it will be done right and I can move on with my life. Everything will be just straight.
Thank you. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Since this was my case, I'm going to go first. Mr. Gamble.
Yes, sir.
I don't think the question this morning is whether or not you have to register as a sex offender. Because if what you say is true, you probably don't have to register as a sex offender. But by virtue of you signing a supervision contract upon your release from incarceration, which states that you, condition number 8 states that you have the responsibility to follow all directions of your parole officer when it comes to medical, any other training counseling or classes you must attend as a provision of your parole. It also states that in your sex offender treatment contract. By virtue of you violating condition number 8 of your supervision contract and provisions of your sex offender contract, my vote is to revoke your supervision. Ms. Wise.
Sir, my vote is the same for the same reasons.
Mr. Jones.
My vote is the same as Mr. Roche as it's been stated.
Mr. Gamble, you have received 3 votes to revoke your supervision. Your supervision has been revoked. Have a good day.
Hold on,
This-
please, Mercy.
This completes.
Man, I gotta tell you, his girlfriend Julie, wow, they deserve each other. Match made in Louisiana. It's like, you know, it's interesting how he's like, I never signed it, and Mr. Shea's like, well, your initials are on it. And if you want to get technical about the law and whether it can be retroactive or not, the law is something that should be respected, and maybe he should hire an attorney and not try to combat it by playing gimmicks and then having his girlfriend come up and talk about how he doesn't really know how to use a VCR or something. I have no idea what she was going on, and I frankly could not believe they let her ramble on and on and on. Now, the thing that he mentioned, which is funny, he's like yelling about how the governor passes a beautiful law about protecting society, and this guy's affected by it. And I did ask ChatGPT, and the governor was Mike Foster, who pushed for changes to the state sex offender registration laws in the late 90s. Now it says, while it wasn't directly because of his personal experience involving his daughter being sexually assaulted, and sure, say what you want. I don't care. I think it's great if you're in a place of power and you turn something like that into good. That's all about, you know. Anyways, but Governor Foster was notably passionate about the issue of sexual assault and implemented several measures to tighten laws related to sex offenders. Foster, who served as governor from 96 to 2004, made efforts to strengthen the state's offender registry and enacted tougher penalties. His initiative aimed to protect children and communities from sexual predators by advocating for stricter monitoring and more severe punishment for those convicted. Although these changes were not specifically linked to personal incident involving his daughter. I don't know why they have to keep stating that. But you could have fooled me. I mean, we've seen, when was Louisiana strict? I don't get, wait, what are you talking about? Now, it could be that I just, I should study the history if I'm going to do all this YouTube on it, frankly, because we have seen sentences where people do get life sentences or longer sentences, and we all kind of wonder, well, why did it happen now and not then? And maybe during his tenure, he did pass legislation that made it stricter. I'm not sure. But what I did find, and I spent some time Googling, I wanted to share more about it and give more details or even some facts. And in the amount of time I spent, I guess 20 minutes Googling while we were talking, while I'm watching this, but I did find something, which is, in short, this is not the first guy to get upset about the laws changing. Here's from a piece from the LA Times. And this is a man, and it's funny, if you read this article, I'll drop the link in there. It's just going to get you really upset. It's like, of course, everyone, you pass a law to protect our children, and you have a bunch of people with their lawyers saying, hey, that's not fair. And it's like, are you kidding me? Pick your battles, man. But in 1991, so this guy, he pled guilty to spousal assault, sexual assaults, according to the records. Now, this is a guy who's saying, hey, it's not fair that I have to register. He broke into his wife's home, and then he sexually assaulted her on the living room floor while holding a hunting knife. The couple had been separated for 2 years at that point. Now, at the time of his sentencing, he told the judge, Judge Stevens Perrin, that he would not have to register as an offender because spousal did not require it. Can you imagine? But in 1993, the state statute changed, and spousal sexual assault became an offense that required registration. Now, subsequently, Megan's Law made registration retroactive to 1944. So look at that. This is a federal law that makes it retroactive to 1944. So I don't know what this guy's talking about. Urbina, who was paroled in 95 after serving 4 years, unless Megan's Law is not federal, I don't know. I think it's a federal law. Or is that, I have no idea. Is Megan's Law a federal law? Should I ask? I love Chat GPT. Is Megan's Law a federal law? Oh, Megan's Law is not a specific federal law, but rather a term used to describe a set of state laws in the United States. These laws require law enforcement authorities to inform. Typically includes offenders' names, photographs. Oh, it's interesting. Okay. The laws were inspired by the tragic case Megan Kanka, a young girl who was assaulted and killed in New Jersey in 1994 by a known sex offender living in her neighborhood. Megan's Law aims to increase public awareness and protection by allowing citizens to access information about sex offenders living in their communities. Following this case, many states enacted their versions of Megan's Law, requiring offenders to register with local after the release. So however, on a federal level, there is a law related to sex offenders registration and notification called Jacob Wetterling Crimes Against Children. So it's not a federal law, which is okay. That's interesting. See, we learn new things watching Mandu. What do you think about this, by the way? I'm wondering if I should try to bring in more, I guess, this type of information. It is interesting to me. Now, Urbina, who was paroled in 1995 after serving 4 years of an 8-year sentence, because, hey, he only had to serve 4 of an 8-year sentence for going into the home with a knife and doing that to his ex-wife. I know it was his estranged wife. But he didn't learn he had to register until 1997. Poor guy. He was stunned, Gross said. He made one bad mistake. I just can't with these attorneys. He made one bad mistake. No, you know how many times we hear that in these parole hearings? Yeah, leaving the house when it's raining without your umbrella. That's a mistake. Dropping the carton of eggs. That's a mistake. Sneaking into your house and sexually assaulting your wife, who you've been with a knife, is not a mistake, sir. And that at the time had some very, very severe consequences. He paid his dues for 4 years in prison. Gross contends that his 33-year-old client is not dangerous, and likely to attack again, sure. He described the single incident of spousal assault as an extreme offense that arose of a marital dispute. Dude, they've been living away for 2 years. Not that it wouldn't even make a difference if it had been 0 years. Like, what are you even saying? Oh, man. He has had no other criminal conviction charges since he was out on parole. Wow. Gross said that as such, he should not continue to be punished for a lifetime of registration. It's not about punishment. It's about protection, you fool. Who argued that Urbina motion last month should disagree. This guy is, this is what he says. The deputy district attorney actually said something that I can agree with. This guy is a blank. She said, he went into the house and brutally assaulted her. It was horrible. I think if somebody has done it once, I think the odds are pretty good that it can be done again. I agree. If he is never going to do it again, she added, he has nothing to worry about. I like that. That's a nice smug addition there. You know, they go on to talk about the law and this and that. The judge said after researching the subject, he could find no authority in California directly on point, but that pending case by the California Supreme Court should soon solve the issue. I do love how law works. I think it's really cool. During the hearing, also referred to federal law 97 requirements in New Jersey's law to be regulatory, not punitive. Although it is, I do think it's a little bizarre how, like, not bizarre, but the whole notion that pulling up cases from like 30 years ago and using that as references to making certain verdicts now, although I think that that's really cool, I also kind of think that it's a little broken. But I guess that there are systems for fixing that. If you don't register, the judge said, things get real serious. They get serious real fast. The past 2 years, Ventura County prosecutors have filed charges against 30 people who failed to comply with the state registration requirements. You can imagine only filing charges against 30 over 2 years, but this was, I guess, when it first started. Of those cases, the penalty ranged from 16 months in county jail to 4 years in state prison, and because it's a felony not to register, most paroled offenders run the risk of second or third convictions and send them to prison for life. Yeah, this is like a time capsule, this article. When was it written? It was written in 1998. It's a real time capsule. Things are slowly moving in the right direction, I guess, when you look at it compared to the 90s, but we're a long way. It's moving far too slowly, in my opinion. But it is progressing in the right direction. When we went over the legislation on just another hearing, how in Louisiana in 2023, they moved the minimum sentence for molestation of a juvenile from what was it, from 2 years to 25 years. So that's a huge jump in the right direction. But with that, I'll let you go.